Hey gang, quick side note here. I'm a little sick. I've been sick for a couple days, but I wanted to pump out a video so you guys weren't waiting a month for this one. I'm a little hoarse sounding, so hopefully you can stand by me, but it's a good one. You should listen to it. Thanks. Man has no wings nor hollow bones, yet we fly higher than any bird. We have no gills nor swim bladders, yet explore depths never before thought possible by even the most daunting of sea beasts. We lack the evolutionary factors to survive the cruelest environment of all, the dead vacuum of space. But above all else, we've placed those brave enough to dare on the moon, only to gallivant as if it were a walk in the park. Human progression seems to be limitless to what our own imaginations are capable of dreaming of and desiring, though those may be facsimiles. Take your wildest ideals, a few of your faithful companions of encouragement, or even your most scorned enemies, and you've inevitably created the next field of science, the next evolutionary goal, the next grandiose quest for the indulgence of one's own species. The Wright brothers, inventors of the first airplane, are said to have been inspired by a toy they shared as children, a small pseudo-helicopter device that would propel itself into the air via rubber bands. An item, an object, so menial as a children's toy can alter the journey of a species. But are these things really that insignificant? What do children value? What can they value? Their parents? Their schoolyard friends? Their toys? If all the value that a child possesses is placed in these few objects, principles, relationships, then that rubber band-powered helicopter toy is an atomic bomb. Children don't stay young forever, and they grow. The brothers couldn't possibly know that the creation of their flying machine would lead to one of the most crucial innovations of the last 200 years, up there with microprocessors and transistors. Both Orville, or Otis as he preferred, and Odie, as I prefer, with his brother Wilbur would die before even seeing the first metal plane take the air, which makes me wonder if they had any idea of the way their brainchild would grow to become a brain god. As this shit comes in levels. You can't explore the heavens without first taking the initial jump. Baby steps. When I read of the Wright brothers, I imagine just two brothers with a dream and a bike shop, whose hope to be able to fly amongst the skies went beyond anything they could have imagined. It's such a simple premise, but who hasn't played with one thing or another and went, it'd be really cool if we could make this bigger and ride it around, more realistic and lived it, works of fiction made non-fiction. In the age of high-paced consumerism and on-demand product acquisition, it feels as though things are made with a purpose rather than to see if they can actually be done at all, and much less for the betterment of humanity. That purpose is money. It's so rare that someone or some group of people just do things to say, hey, this shit is cool, and I'm passionate about this, and don't really care what other people think. I'm going to enjoy this, and we all could be better possibly for it. No. We will be better for it. If Big Pharmacy could patent the sun, they would. Jonas Salk stood in direct opposition of the greed found in the hearts of all humans, putting himself to the side for a brief moment. One of the most incalculable acts of kindness that received 17 awards, one of which was a stupid Google Doodle homepage for his 100th birthday even though he died 20 years prior, would be all the historic recognition he would receive. Worship the saints while they walk with us, not when they've walked past us. At its peak, 1 in 200 people who walked the planet would contract a debilitating disease that would rob you of a full life and mobility of one's body: polio. If you didn't know someone coming out the womb with polio, you would have met on average 400 people before they laid you to rest. The last person to have contracted polio, Paul Alexander, died earlier in March of this year, 2024, and was also the last person to live in an iron lung. Thanks to Jonas Salk, the polio vaccine is free to everyone, or at extremely low cost. He could have made millions, if not billions, and been one of the richest people to have walked the earth. Thanks to one person saying, it was never about the money, generations down the line polio will have just been a bad dream, and the greed of man will have been a little weaker for it. Not to cut modern day short, but for some reason, people don't like free miracle cures when they come from the same companies that profit off your unwellness. Most people, even big health organizations, aren't evil. They're just stupid or greedy. They want your money, not your life. If you continue to stay alive, you can continue to give money, which may be evil, but that's not what this video is about. It's easy to get tunnel vision. Actually, it's the de facto state when it comes to existence. It's such a gift at all to simply be that we often feel that this gift must be used for something greater, to contribute in some way to the rest of those we perceive are also existing, to be the next Salk or Wright brother. Whether that be ensuring your children have a better life than your own, even though you may not be around to see a majority of it, or the late-stage effects of one's own actions. You just want to abide by the golden rule and leave things better than how you found it. You want to do good. Curing cancer even though you may be long dead before seeing the fruits of your labor, as it then must go through the scrutiny of trial phases before it can actually be used worldwide. Before you go, because you will go, most decent people want to know things are going to be okay, and that you are liked by enough people and a part of that okayness. God, a confirmation of an afterlife would make this all so much easier, and maybe that too is a possibility we never considered imaginable. Similar to the doubts that the Wright brothers faced with flying machines, or that the Earth might not be flat. On the other end, however, is the philosophy that life was simply meant to be enjoyed, not in excess, as hedonism would have you believe, seeking the next pleasurable stimuli after another, but in Epicureanism, the ideology that life was meant to be enjoyed in moderation, to find meaning in the little joys. You, despite how it may feel and what we currently understand of our greater place in the universe, were not placed here for any reason. Your reason for living, for simply being alive, is to find meaning in simply doing it, to feel fulfilled while you're here with the worldly tools available. This is objective naturalism. Until we run into another advanced civilization, we have to infer either we are the greatest thing to come out of the universe to date of 13 trillion years, or that the universe is very big and life is rare, but not as rare as one in infinite odds, which is equally scary as it is comforting. So pick a lane on what you'd like it to be. Some speculate life goes through something called the Great Filter, a concept that is the ultimate trial for all life forms, and most don't get past this, resulting in extinction, and hence why we aren't part of some greater galactic federation. We could even be going through it right now. And until this moment arises where we do find life other than us, we feel as though destiny calls to us for more. We're special. Based on this logical comparison, it is equal in value to invent a new type of car as it is to enjoy a sunset or one's family. It may not feel this way, as there are far less people inventing cars as there are those enjoying sunsets, but we can attribute this to saturation. In terms of the universal scale we had mentioned, all of the people enjoying sunsets are right here with us. But consider the hypothetical that there is life on a planet where sunsets don't look nearly as beautiful as our own, even on the same universal scale, or that sunsets are much more exceedingly rare with a day cycle that lasts 10 years. But on this hypothetical planet, there are cars. This planet is covered in so many varieties of cars of differing shapes and colors, so much so that no two people, or aliens at this point, have the same one. Sunsets would seem a lot more special, and those who enjoy ours would be much more the topic of galactic envy. Our cars would mean nothing to the civilization we've encountered, but become the next intergalactic tourist hotspot for that big ball of gas in the sky. Doing something for the sheer sake of enjoyment, or really just doing it for the sake of just because, has become more, or maybe always has been, a concept that seems taboo, associated with time wasted. There's always an end goal, some means of doing something with purpose. Of course, this could be a fallacy, that all action is motivated by some force, but in some way or another, everything is done just because. Why invent a cup? Just because I felt as if there was a better way to deliver water to my mouth than my hands. Why enjoy the beautiful winter morning with a cup of coffee in your favorite mug, one you made no less? Just because I find the activity enjoyable. Why build an airplane? Just because I wanted to fly. Why cure a disease? Just because I wanted to help, to be good. In a lot of ways, we've preserved this nature to ourselves, of just because. Why make plans to go to Mars? Just in case we destroy the green gem we live in, or I guess it's on now, and need a plan B. Why upload a digital copy of one's consciousness to a computer server? Just because I don't want to die, and this seems like the next best thing to immortality. Why invent an artificial intelligence that can problem solve and create art? Just because thinking is hard sometimes. I'm sure at one point or another someone looked up at the summer night sky they enjoyed purveying just because they find it humbling and breathtaking, and took notice of a flashing light dancing its way amongst the cosmic sea. A satellite. This satellite, this machine, is not only just a means of transmitting messages across electronic signals and a complex exchange of electromagnetic radiation, but a symbol. A symbol of how far we've come and how much we've mastered. In a way, it symbolizes progress, but also narrows down the possibilities of what's perceivably left still worth mastering and controlling. What's still possible? It seems we can do anything, control the weather, move mountains, destroy continents, and civilizations built up for millennia. Where does it end? What's the final goal? What are we doing and to what means? That there is the big question. And throughout the ages, the answer has changed quite a bit based on who's being asked. If you asked a 12th century crusader, the end goal would probably be spread Christianity to the entirety of the earth. If you asked a cartographer in the 16th century, it would be to map the entire planet accurately. And if you asked someone in the world today, their answer would vary depending on where their passions lie. Some may say singularity, where the fate of humanity and technology run in perpendicular, never to be separated again, achieving a higher state of being, similar to that kind of shitty Johnny Depp movie Transcendence, but better supposedly. Another may say that though we aren't actively working towards it, and are in fact trying to avoid it, nuclear annihilation and thusly extinction. It's frankly quite impossible to determine or even make somewhat accurate guess on the end goal or even fate of humanity. Technology evolves at such a rate and breakthroughs are made at the same rate to the point that our entire worldview could be flipped around, and the fundamentals we've become accustomed to just aren't the case anymore. Gravity is a great example of this, and it's because of this curvature of space-time. Space-time is a model we quirky humans came up with where we combine both three-dimensional space and time together to create a plane. A large body with mass or energy can cause space-time to bend or curve, and this dent is what we call gravity. Why does it do this? Well, that's really complicated and math-heavy, but imagine it just does. Things aren't curving but taking the path of least resistance, which in a fourth-dimensional space is what we know as gravity. Essentially, our understanding of gravity stops on the quantum level. Things act not wrong, but not right the smaller, more particle-based you get. And also black holes. As with our current model, it states that infinitely dense things are impossible, but we know black holes exist, so what the fuck is happening there? Higgs fields, asymptotic safety, causal dynamic triangulation, string theory, general relativity, completing the standard model, gravitons. It gets pretty fucking crazy, and if I could get it all in 15 minutes, I would be nominated, not win, because science is a popularity contest, let's be real, a Nobel Prize. Essentially, we know how things do what they do, we just don't know why. It's like we're currently reverse engineering the universe, but here's the deal. If we could understand quantum gravity, it would be such a significant event that it would make the entirety of the human history look like baby's first steps, and now we've jumped straight to Olympic athletes. On a physics standpoint, we could be able to understand what exactly happened during, and quite possibly before the Big Bang, so that's kind of a big deal. We'd solve the information paradox of black holes. If you don't know that one, it basically talks about what happens to matter that goes into these things. Hawking radiation is a bit of a something, which is the radiation that emits around black holes and stems from them, but without being around one and measuring this radiation, it's a hard sell. We suspect that Hawking radiation is made up of photons, electrons, and positrons. Photons have no mass, but electrons and positrons do. When these electrons and positrons meet, sometimes referred to as anti-electrons, they are destroyed and become energy. That's E equals mc squared, son, as cliche as it sounds. It's all very theoretical and very cool. You can read arguments on Reddit or even the folks who wrote this jazz, but even they go, well, in my model the universe is static, even though we know the universe is not. Or they would imply a virtual particle that's more of a disturbance that appears in our universe out of nowhere because quantum fields and things like photons suddenly appearing to have mass. They aren't real particles, but rather a fundamental tool to understand particle interactions. It's 3 a.m. Do you know where your particle is? Well, neither does it. Moving into practical means, time machines that can only go forward, kind of like Interstellar, along with really fast means of travel as gravity and the speed of light are the same, which would be cool because you couldn't go the speed of light, but you could go really fucking fast, as G-force isn't something you have to worry about in space. This may all be absurd at one point or another. It was once absurd to think that we'd be walking around with supercomputers the size of a slice of bread with all recorded human information available at our fingertips. That's an easy cop-out, but another example of the would-be seemingly impossible is that we can shoot neutrons at elements like uranium, splitting the nuclei into two, taking the released energy and powering entire cities with that jazz right there. Life imitates art, and pop culture is no exception. Countless examples of technology appearing in movies, TV shows, and books only for that same technology to be made reality less than a century later can be found all over the place. H.G. Wells is notorious for doing this with his works, predicting some of the most abundant. His book, Men Like Gods, predicted email and voicemail back in 1923. The World Set Free predicted the atomic bomb back in 1914. And it's not just Wells either. Star Trek predicted FaceTime and cell phones, not exclusively, as others have been doing this for a while in different medias, but still. We imagine, we conceptualize, we create. But why? What is it all leading to? Why do we continue to advance when life seems pretty good as it is? Well, the answer isn't greed. It isn't selfish intent. It isn't to find the secrets of the universe and to play God. We move forward just because. Like the pull of gravity, like a beam of light, like the nuclear pull of atoms, we move forward because it's a fundamental force in the universe. There are those who are waiting for humanity's next stage in evolution while you're looking at it. Humanity has shown no matter what great reset or cosmic forces are at play, we're going to pick up the pieces and progress from that point forward. Our bodies are near perfect, and where they lack, we will compensate with technology and our minds. We vastly outlive the average global lifespans of all creatures on Earth, and with those added decades, we're going to do something grand with it. With all that jazz out there and said context enough, what is the end goal of humanity? We know how and why, but time to address what? Well, there are a few requirements for what we will call the end. Number 1. The collectiveness of humanity has agreed that the overall well-being and flourishment of every single person is a basic requirement and most often sought after. Number 2. Longevity and perpetuity. We want humanity as a whole to last forever, in some state, whether that means environmental stability, obtaining singularity, etc. This accounts for the eventual theorized death of the universe and principles along those lines. Number 3. To leave no questions left unanswered and to control everything that needs to be controlled in order to sustain the first two. How we go about these 3 rules within the brief guidelines I've established is open for creativity. Most people fear death, and it's often those who lived long lives and are experiencing their decline in health that have shown to embrace the phenomena. But what if they could stay in peak physical condition forever? Would death still be embraced, and is it truly embraced, or is it an acceptance of the inevitable? As these questions are asked, we would most likely see a massive rise and resurgence in philosophy. And I'm talking real philosophy, not just what we see in the modern era that says be good to each other and we should all treat each other equally and equitably, and also we're trash. Want to hear the grand philosophy of humanity up until this current moment? Well, too bad, here it is. There are some people who are objectively good and some who are subjectively bad. Your actions have reactions, and no action is ever free of consequence and reward. External and ordained traits contribute to the exasperation or complete transformation of a current state, and those who have been subjectively bad can be redeemed, and those who are good can be tarnished. God is real if you believe it to be. The universe is a series of random interactions if you believe it to be. 2 separate people can believe this, and in both cases are factually correct. Being kind to your fellow person feels good, but carries no more importance than being foul. It's just transient. Value is paradoxical in nature, and you should side on the safe side of believing that you're not the only one who's experiencing all of this. Teach a man to fish or give him a fish, it doesn't matter, but not in a nihilist way, as it all matters. Everything is nothing and nothing is everything. It'll all eventually end or go on forever. By the way, this isn't absurdism, you're just not grasping it. All of this thing you're experiencing or not experiencing, is something that no word or series of words can ever describe. Human condition, blah blah blah. This is just my universal philosophy. My personal philosophy is be nice, be kind, help when you can and probably when you shouldn't, love animals, love family, love strangers, eat a lot, drink a lot, make art, stare at spreadsheets, play games, suffer, thrive, live, actually live, waste a little bit of life at a dead-end job, do all the bad and the good of what it means to be human, just do something and sometimes nothing. And as iCarly once said, live life, breathe air, somehow we're gonna get there. The end may be in your lifetime, probably not, as we have a long way to go before these 3 requirements I set out are fulfilled. But in the meantime, just enjoy life, because eventually we will reach this point, and you'll wish you had done so already. Or we won't, and never will. So why wouldn't you have wanted to, if that was the case either? The end. If you enjoyed this madman's ravings, then like and subscribe, or don't. I don't care, or do. Either way. I'm thankful as I have manners, and I think most of you are here from my Road 96 video anyways. And if you're not, well, hope you achieve enlightenment in this incarnation. Peace out.